Welcome to Lead Her Chats with your host, Jade Richmond. This is a no-fluff zone where big girl panties are required. Nothing but true-to-life conversations take place here. We are broadcasting from Bold Radio Station, and now, here is your host, Jade.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Leader Chats. I am so excited that you are here with us on Monday. I hope you all enjoyed your Father's Day yesterday. If you have a lucky man in your life, whether it's your father or your significant other, brother or uncle, I hope you had an awesome time enjoying that time with one another. I know for the Richmond household, we actually relaxed. My husband did not want to do anything for Father's Day. All he wanted to do was be fed and left alone. So he just wanted to just have peace and quiet. And that was not a problem with me because I was so tired from all my traveling this weekend. And if you don't know, a lot of you do know because you follow me on social media, but I actually just got my PhD. So I'm so excited about that. And so now I'm decompressing and I'm just so happy to have our guest on the line, Ms. Gwen. She's actually my sister friend. She gets me together when I'm all out of order and, we have fun and everything. And I'm pretty sure you've heard of her because now I like to tease her. She's a celebrity now. But before I introduce Gwen, I want to tell you how I met Gwen. And she probably doesn't even remember. Well, I know she doesn't remember because we talked about this. But I actually attended a natural hair care expo a couple of years ago, I want to say it was maybe 2013, and Gwen was speaking at the Charles H. Wright Museum, and I actually went because I'm like, okay, I'm no longer straightening my hair like that. I'm not putting any relaxers on my edges. I need to figure out what it is can do with my hair. So I was like, I'll go to this expo. I get to the expo and I saw Gwen, and I was just so enamored by her poise and personality. And plus, it didn't hurt that she's from Ohio, so I'm from Dayton and she's from Cleveland. So I was like, oh yeah, we're going to be friends. So she didn't know this at the time. I had bought some of her products right there, her step 1, 2, and 3 formulas. And this is when all her things were in the white bottles. So I bought those. I was like, okay, I'm going to try it. And it just worked like miracles on my hair. I was like, oh my God, what trickery is this? And so ever since then, I've been on her email list. And, throughout the years, we've actually worked together on business and things like that. And we just have become great friends. I'm just so excited to have her in my life. And she's just such a beautiful spirit and inspiring. And I know we only have 30 minutes on the show, but I'm not going to read her bio to you like I do all the other guests because there's just so much to say about Gwen that I just would like for her to share her story with you personally versus me reading her accolades because, sometimes we see these accolades and we forget that this person, has a testimony. She has a story. She has a why. And I want you all to understand what drives Gwen and how did she get from point A to point B. Like her success is not something that happened overnight. So without further ado, welcome, Gwen.
Hi, Jade. Thanks for having me on your show.
Thank you for being here. I know you are such a busy person these days, going to Cuba and all these other things. I got to learn how to catch up with you.
Well, yes, I had a great time in Cuba. It's probably the first vacation I was able to take in a long time. So it was much needed. So definitely glad I got to do that. And I don't know, I heard that you may not be able to go to Cuba soon or something like that.
Right.
So
exactly.
If you can go, you all should definitely go.
Absolutely. So today I wanted to talk about something because oftentimes, we both have, you have a larger following than me on social media, but I do know you probably get these questions a lot. A lot of times I know in the business circle and community, we get the same questions such as, how did you get started? And what made you decide to do this? Do you have to have a degree in this particular area to be successful? And I just want you to share your story because you actually do not have a background in chemistry or anything like that, but you have a natural hair care line.
I do, and I'm probably the most unlikely person to have a hair care line at all because I was never that girl that grew up and had like the awesome hair that everybody was envious of. And, people would be like, what did you use on your hair to make it grow? Like, I wasn't that person. I was a person with the real whack wrap who like could not get the wrap to wrap properly. And it always had that bend in the front, it was horrible. Like my hair was messed up, growing up. And so I'm, again, like the least likely person to have a hair care line. So it always blows my mind when I think about it. But no, I do not have a background or degree in chemistry. My undergrad degree is actually in computer science, and my master's degree is in communications and marketing. So the only chemistry background I actually had was 11th grade for one semester, in which I did receive an A. But that's it. That was not being fulfilled. So long story short, I was pregnant with my son, and I had seen the movie called Good Hair by Chris Rock. And in the movie, he takes a can of soda and submerges it into a hair relaxer. And if anyone's seen the movie, you know exactly the part I'm talking about. And it just freaked me out. I was pregnant and emotional, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm never relaxing my hair again. Because I'm thinking, if that's doing that to a can, what is it possibly going to do to my baby that's growing inside of me? And so I decided abruptly to stop relaxing my hair, but I didn't know what to do with my hair because I had been using relaxers since I was in the third grade. And so here I am, about 27, 28 years old, embarking on this journey, and I'm realizing that this natural hair thing is taking me a long time to get my hair done, right? And so anybody who has gone from relaxed to natural knows that it's a serious time commitment. But as a new mom and as a busy professional woman, I didn't have the time to spend forever sitting around. I could not have my time revolve around my hair. That just was not an option for me. And so I was looking for products that were, 1, natural and healthy and organic, 2, actually worked, and 3, didn't take up all my day. And I couldn't find anything that did all 3 things. And so I decided in my infinite wisdom to go into my kitchen and create it myself. So I thought it would take me, a week or so to come up with this. It ended up taking me about 5 months to come up with what we have now, which is our Hello Gorgeous hair care system. And like you mentioned, it is a 3-step system. It does work of 12 products, but it was a lot of error along the way. And I didn't have a chemist friend. I didn't have anyone who could help me, but there was a need. And I think like a lot of women, and probably several women that you've interviewed in the past, we are resourceful people, so it's like, if there's not something that is available, we're going to figure out a way to make it happen. And sometimes those turn into businesses. And that's what happened with me.
I just get excited when I hear your story because it's just like you said, it's just one of those things. It's like so unlikely. Like, you started your journey one way and then it ended up a completely different way. And I think, oftentimes it's just when we become mothers, like I'm finding even with my own current business endeavors, I kind of shared with you a little bit a couple weeks ago when I saw you for your birthday regarding Zoe and her special bottle now to use. And it's so funny because I'm not an engineer or anything like that. Like drawing is not my forte. None of that. I'm not creative when it comes to building stuff at all. I'm the nerdy girl. I'm nerd. I'm brains. I'm paperwork and that's it. But when it comes to actually building something, it just amazes me because, for me, it grew out of necessity for my child. I'm like, okay, I need to do this. And it sounds like your story is so similar to mine, that this system came out of you wanting something healthy for your body so that you won't hurt your child,
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So kudos to you as well for finding a way to create something that didn't exist. And like I said, a lot of times those things turn into businesses, and it's so nice because it's always, not always, but usually an organic situation. It's like your heart and your passion is really in it. It wasn't designed to be a financial gain. It was just like, this is something I need, can't find it. And then next thing you know, other people need it. And it kind of validates the fact that this is a known issue, but people have just been dealing with the status quo and accepting it as is. And then you've come up with something that changes all that, and it just blows up.
Absolutely. So now that everyone has the background information on why you got started, initially with your business. So now that it's you have a tremendous amount of success. So when did you, I know for me, I don't know if it's the same for you, but when did you first realize like, oh my God, this is actually going to work? Oh my gosh, this is really going to be my life, my lifestyle now. I'm able to make healthy products for people to put in, on their bodies and things like that. So they don't have to worry. And then they can manage their hair in such a small amount of time. And it still comes out to be a good product and, result after using your products.
Yeah, I think I started to realize it when Well, first of all, I realized that when I was making the products and then friends started asking me if they could have some because they wanted to know what I was using on my hair because my hair started growing really fast and really beautifully. And then their friends and their coworkers started asking where they could buy the products. And so next thing I know, I've got to put up a website because people are asking me to buy my products. And at the time I was working in corporate America, so it's not like I could sit at home and take orders over the phone. So I had to put up a website. So again, it was very organic kind of growth. And even then it was like, oh, this is just like a side hustle kind of hobby thing. It wasn't like supposed to be like my main thing. And that was probably when I first realized like, hey, the desire to find something, especially that doesn't take up all your time, to find products that are organic and healthy and work. Like all three of those issues are issues for other people. But again, they've just accepted the status quo. Like, it's when you deal with natural hair, you just have to take all day on your hair. That's just kind of what we have accepted. And so I think that was the first time I realized that this was a valid, thing that could actually make money. But then I got laid off from my job and I was going through my divorce at the same time. And so at that point, I was just like, what can I do to make money right now? Like, not tomorrow, not next week if I go for a job hunt. What can I do legally and morally, outside of like selling on the corner or hopping on somebody's pole? What can I do to make money today? And so I had this little hobby that I knew people were buying things. And again, it was just a hobby. And luckily I already had the website up because people were asking for and that kind of thing. So I was like, let me just take this and go full force with it as much as I can. And then I would have little small successes here and there. Like I would go to Eastern Market here in Detroit, which for those of you listening who do not live in Detroit, is basically like an open air farmer's market. There weren't very many beauty vendors there. And so I would go there and I would just like sell my stuff and people would buy it. And they always say like the best way to know if you have a valid business is if somebody's willing to give you money for it. And people were willing to give me money for it. But then not only that, people were willing to come back and purchase again, which is an even better way to know if you have a viable product. And so, yeah, those are probably the first two times when I realized that, this could be something that really takes off.
That experience is just one of those things. I remember, like when, like you said, like you got laid off. And for me, it was more so my job was killing me. My job was killing me and everything. I just couldn't take it anymore. So it was like one of those things like you sink or swim. And then when you have a child depending on you, it's like, oh no, this is not an option. We're going to figure this out by any means necessary. And I know for me, that was one of the things that propelled me in terms of building She's the way it is built now. I'm sorry, y'all. Zoe is my daughter. She was sick today, and now she done had her medicine, and now she's excited.
Aww.
So she had a rough day today at school. But nonetheless, so yeah, in terms of like building and things like that, I can definitely relate to you 100%. It's one of those things like I just had this emotional highlight because, oftentimes, especially because we're so used to what society says success is. And, we were told to go to school, get a degree and, get a career in the degree that you have. And now, we're in this age where everything is so non-traditional now, all it takes, because we have information at our fingertips, and it's all about just being, like you said in the beginning, being resourceful. Like you necessarily don't have to have a degree to be successful. And I think, that's the mindset that a lot of us sometimes are stuck in because, like I said, we were, taught, to go through these certain steps. Like this is the only way to do it. And now we're finding that, okay, we've all been bamboozled.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I have the student loan debt to show it, and I'm just really grateful that we do live in a age now where entrepreneurship is kind of, it's kind of sexy. It's kind of trendy right now. And it's giving people and younger people coming up as well. Like I'm talking like teenagers and kids, the thought process that they can start their own businesses and they don't have to rely on somebody else's determination of their worth, And so I'm really happy. Like my son is 6 years old and he's coming up in that era and he wants to be an entrepreneur and he, has these business ideas that he wants me to help him execute. And it's just like, wow, at 6, I was thinking about being a backup dancer for Janet Jackson when I was 6. I wasn't thinking about, trying to start a company. But, that's the thought process of these kids these days. And it's really cool. The downside of that, though, is that because entrepreneurship is so trendy, a lot of people aren't realizing that not everyone is designed to be an entrepreneur. Like,
Absolutely.
you have to be built for this, seriously.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot about, my success, and it's like, oh, Naturalicious has done such great things. But there were times, in the past when I had to make decisions between, am I going to pay my mortgage or am I going to buy raw materials for my products? And I couldn't pay for both because I didn't have the money to do both. And those are things that don't get talked about in entrepreneurship. And that stuff is scary. It's hard. It's very risky. And so we only see these success stories. We don't always see the struggle. And even when you are successful as an entrepreneur, you can still have that struggle. There are companies that I know of that net easily $18 million a year, but they're not profitable, and it's stressful. It can be very, very stressful. So while there is definitely the upside of entrepreneurship, there's some challenges and some risks that go along with it. And so, on one hand, it's very nice that it's very trendy to be an entrepreneur, because it gives people the idea that, hey, I can do this on my own. But on the other hand, there are even if you're an entrepreneur, you eventually have to have employees. So some people are just going to be employees and some people are just going to be entrepreneurs. And that's the way it is. And I think that we have to assess our risk tolerance, because you have to be a very risk tolerant person to be an entrepreneur, for sure.
Yeah, I agree with all of that you said, Gwen. I have no complaints about that. I think, I think you just hit the nail on the head. People are so used to and fascinated with the idea of saying, "Oh, I have a business," but do they really? A lot of them don't really know that. I mean, this stuff is not for the faint of heart. I love being able to have my own freedom and things like that. But like you said, it's some days you just don't know how things are going to get paid. You don't know, what you're going to eat. It's not until you get to the level of success where everything you have a consistent income. But in the beginning, it's definitely tough because you just don't know. And I think that goes into our topic tonight, building the empire, because a lot of people think that, oh, just because you purchase a domain name or have your business register in the state that you do business in, and you got a couple contracts in the logo design, oh, you have built the empire. Oh no, sweetie. There's so much stuff in between there in terms of building the empire. But I think everyone has gotten so fascinated with the idea, like you said, of being an entrepreneur and not realizing that everybody's not meant to be an entrepreneur. It doesn't mean that you don't have great ideas. It's one of those things, you got to have, the world is built on employees and employers. And if everyone is an employer, who's going to work, like you said, every business should have more than one employee. If you're just if you're talking about you a business owner and it's just you're not a business owner, you're a hobbyist. I don't care what anybody says, you're a hobbyist, because it takes more than one person to really, really build something sustainable. You need team members, you need people contributing, because you can't be all things in your business. You just can't do it.
Right. Yeah, I agree 100%. But I will caveat that, though, and say that, when you start out, you obviously don't have employees. Like, your best employee is yourself, and you are wearing all the hats, And so there's nothing wrong with growing, but you do, like you said, to your point, you have to start looking at ways to exit those roles and replace yourself with people who can handle those, so you can work on vision and strategy and grow your business.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about building this empire, because I know like I said before in the beginning, I get a lot of questions about building the empire, like how do you do this and things like that. And one of the things we kind of talked about already is, number one, you got to know why you got started in business. It can't be just because you want to make money. I find that my colleagues that built businesses, out of passion and necessity, they tend to be the most successful in their business. Like, I have yet to run into someone who just said, like, okay, I want to do this because it looks sexy and build a business and be successful. Like, you have to have some type of passion, and that's tied to your why. Like, why did you get started? And I think you have to know, why. What is your passion? What is the whole purpose of starting this business? What solutions are you solving? I mean, what problems are you
Yeah.
solving? Like, your business has to be able to provide a solution. It doesn't matter what, this is what I tell people. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. If you're providing solutions to common problems that people have, your business is going to, continue to be successful because you're providing something that people want and need.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah,
think,
I agree.
go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say, your the key word that you used was solution, right? So, the first thing is to make sure that you understand who you're serving, because a lot of times
Mm-hmm.
we'll start companies like, let's say, a t-shirt company. You'll start a
Yes,
t-shirt company. You're just trying to sell to every, and it's for women. So you sell to everybody who's a woman, who wears t-shirts, which is basically everybody in the world. And if you're trying to serve
exactly.
everybody, you can't serve anybody. So you have
Mm-hmm.
to, one, figure out exactly who your target is. And even when you niche it down and figure out, okay, let's say you're like, I serve women who are into pop culture, hypothetically, right? If you have a t-shirt company. Okay, but I'm a woman who's into pop culture, but I'm totally different than a woman who is 21 years old in college and who's into pop culture, right? You know what I mean? So it's like niching it down as far as you can until you can't niche it down anymore, and then serving that subset of people. So at Naturalicious, we always say that what we do is we create natural beauty solutions for busy professional women to help them save time in their day, right? And that's what we do. So if you're not a busy professional woman, there's a chance that we may not be the brand for you, because our price point is a prestige price point. Our shampoo is $23. We're not what I would call luxury. A luxury brand would cost around 30 or 40, and a discount brand would cost around 5 or 6. So we're kind of in the middle. So we're prestige for sure. We're $23 for our shampoo, and people who are that's our customer is not price sensitive, right? She's not someone who's going to balk at the $23 price point. And it's so funny to me, like when I go places and we're talking about our products to people, we'll have people who come up to us and they'll be like, why is it $23? This is so expensive. This is outrageous. And then we'll have other people who will come up and we'll tell them about the product and why it works and how it works. And they'll be like, oh, $23, that's not bad at all. It's the same exact product on the same exact day, but the customer is different. And so I'm okay with knowing that the person who's balking at the price is not my customer. And I think a lot of times people, they get caught up in trying to serve too many masters. So you have to know exactly who your customer is, first of all. And then, like you said, create solutions for that customer. So if I know my customer is a busy professional woman, that's who I'm going after, because she's more interested. She's buying our products not just because they're natural and they're healthy and organic, but she's buying and they work. She's also buying them because they give her time back in her day. She's not price sensitive. Time is her currency. So she's willing to pay more for a product that's slightly, more costly because she's not so much paying for the product, she's paying for the transformation of time back in her day, right? And so I think that's really, really important for people to get, because a lot of times we don't do enough ideal target customer research to figure out
Mm-hmm.
exactly who we're serving. And then on top of that, we're not necessarily creating solutions. So if you're creating just a product that's not a
Mm-hmm.
solution for that person's pain point, like you said, you're basically just creating one of many. And it's really hard to stand out in this really saturated marketplace like that.
Absolutely. And it goes back to the point now, because again, we're in this millennial generation and entrepreneurship, so everyone is trying to create something. And so, like you said, the key is what makes you stand out. And the easiest thing because I'm all about authenticity and transparency. Being authentic, you should be authentic in everything that you do, but to make sure that you stay true to who you are, you need to make sure that you are definitely providing solutions. You know what I mean? Instead of like
Mm-hmm.
duplicating, like you said, I think the t-shirt line is an excellent example. So many people want to come out with t-shirt lines, but like you said, okay, who are you serving? What is the purpose of this? What solution is this solving? If the only solution is because you need money, then your business is not gonna do too well. And I think oftentimes that's why people start businesses, because they're like, oh, I'm not getting paid enough at work. I'm not feeling valued. Okay. But whatever you offer, it has to provide some type of solution, for
Right.
longevity. And so I think that's where a
Yeah.
lot of people get stuck in terms of building their empire or trying to even, get out of startup phase mode with their business, is because you're not servicing people. You're not providing solutions. What you're doing is just selling a product or service, but you're not, like you said, you're not doing research. You're not figuring out what your ideal. You're not number one. You're not niching it down to figure out who your ideal customer is and to know what do they need and want.
Yep, I agree,
You
100%.
you have to be so specific with those things, and I think that's why a lot of people get stuck on building this empire type of thing. Now we have a couple minutes left, and I know because Damian, like I said, he'll kick us off. So, nonetheless, in terms of building this empire, what would you say in terms of building an empire? Now that you have some type of stability, now is it your focus on more so on building a legacy for your son or for the community? What is the vision for you right now? Now that you have already, surpassed, your initial expectations with building your business, what does the future look like for Gwen and Naturalicious now?
That's a great question. I don't think anybody has actually ever asked me that, which it would seem like that would be a common question, but I don't think anybody's ever asked me that in an interview. So I would say that my goal is definitely I would love to leave a legacy for my son. However, I understand that he may or may not be interested in having anything to do with hair. But what I want to do is I want him to be extremely proud of me. That has always been like a goal of mine, to make my son proud of me. But two, I really want him to see entrepreneurship in action. I want him to see the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between, so that when he does decide to go and start his own company, he knows what he's getting into, right? So there's that. But with the company itself, really my goal is to provide opportunities for, one, for women, two, for people of color, and three, for people with special needs. So at Naturalicious, we hire special needs workers on our production line. And so they make, bottle, and label all of our products. And the reason I do that is because, one, it's important to me that we have a social component, socially impactful component to the business. But two, because 90% of special needs workers who are employable are actually unemployed. And it's because most employers assume that they can't do the work because they are they're too slow, or they won't be able to understand it, or what have you. And I've had my team of special needs workers for about a little over a year, and they're probably even more grateful for the opportunity and the work so much harder because they don't get the opportunity a lot of times. And so that's really my goal, is to always provide opportunities for others. And then I hope that translates into whatever my son chooses to do with his life, whether it is to take over Naturalicious or whether it's to create something else on his own. He understands that you can't just have a business and make a bunch of money and then go home and chill. Like, you have to create opportunities for other people and bring other people up along with you.
Yeah, that is just great. And I already told you, Zoe's going to be up in there in that warehouse working soon, too.
I would love to have her. Love to have her. I'm hired, actually. Send her on.
Her and Katie will be in there making a mess.
Yes.
But yeah, I just love that mission. Yeah. Like, I definitely feel that anything that we do, we should always give back. And I think that you have provided a great social component and platform to your brand. And I just love that. I remember reading the article and even watching the interview on TV about a year ago when they actually aired it. And so I was so excited to see that you were doing something like that, because you know what? A lot of places, even though we have laws that say no discrimination and things like that, for people with disabilities, but oftentimes, like you said, those people who are, employable through their disability, they're not getting hired because there's a lack of information and knowledge, on part of the employer's part, And so I just think that's a great opportunity, because then you open the conversation for something different, especially here in the Detroit metro area, for those out here, who need jobs, and who have a disability. So I definitely think that says a lot about mindset of you, and then mindset of our current culture these days. So definitely kudos to you for that. So I'm excited.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So before we wrap up, because we have about a minute left, I want you to tell the audience what can, like, the three, like, at least three takeaways that they can use in order to build their empire today. Three key takeaways.
Oh, that's a great question. Well, the first thing is to just take action, right? To get started. Like, motivation doesn't last, right? That's where discipline comes in. So it's just like, prime example of that is when we see people getting revved up to go to the gym at the start of a new year, right? So they're all motivated because it started the new year. And then a month or two after that, they're back at home and they're not going to the gym. That's because motivation is not sustainable. So discipline is necessary. And so I would say just take action, get started, celebrate those really small wins, and then allow them to accumulate so that you can look back and say, okay, I've accomplished this in a month. I've accomplished this in 3 months. I've accomplished this in a year. But just get started. Just do something. Set up a website. Just decide today that you're going to make something happen, whatever that something is for you. So if you want to start a business, then you need to figure out what you're going to sell. You need to figure out who your target customer is and just get started doing something. Even if you don't have all the answers, just get started. The second thing to go along with that is that start where you are, work with what you've got, because everything that you have right now is more than enough. Like, I started my company with $32 as a single mother. So nobody can tell me that it's impossible or that you don't have any resources. You can't tell me that, because I was that person. And so I didn't have any money. I didn't have someone to help me. My family lives in Ohio. I was doing it on my own, and I had a kid who was 2. So you can do it. You just have to make the decision to not allow your current circumstances to dictate you taking action. So my first thing is to take action. My second thing is to start where you are and don't worry about not having all the answers. Just start with what you can start with right now. And the third thing is that something I always say, which is waiting is not a wealth strategy. So if you're waiting for the right time, you're waiting for the right opportunity, or let's say you're waiting until you find another job, or until you get married, or until your kids graduate from high school, or whatever you're waiting on, and you determine that to be your perfect scenario for getting started, you're only delaying your prosperity, because guess what? There's never going to be a perfect opportunity, because as soon as that perfect thing happens, something else is going to come up, and it's going to force you and cause you to wait even longer. So again, it all kind of goes back to just getting started, and you will figure it out along the way. Trust me. We have a distribution deal with the world's largest supplier of beauty products. I approached those same people 3 years ago, and I couldn't even get past the secretary, So you will figure it out along the way, and just trust yourself and just keep it moving and just take action today.
Amen. Well, Gwen, thank you so much for sharing and taking time out your busy schedule. I'm so surprised you is not on the flight right now.
You know what? I actually will be on one in 2 days.
See, that's my whole point. Can you, before we click off, can you give the listeners your website or social media profile where they can connect with you?
Sure. It is, my social media profile on Instagram is naturalicious_beauty. So there is someone who has the name Naturalicious. That is not us. And I think her page is private. So we are naturalicious_beauty. That's NATURALICIOUS, like Sam, _beauty. So that is us on Instagram. On Facebook, you can find us at Naturalicious Nation. That is our private group on Facebook. And then online, you can find us at naturalicious.net, not .com, .net.
Well, thank you so much, Gwen. And you enjoy the rest of your evening and get prepared for that trip, girl.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. It was a pleasure talking to you, as always.
No problem. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in. Hop on over to searchforherexistence.com and join in on the discussion. Also, tweet us at searchforherexist and tell us what you think about today's show. See you next week, all on Bold Radio Station.